Hey, everybody, welcome to Behind the Bar. I'm your host, Andy Johnson, where I interview your favorite dry bar comedians. Today, with me, the very funny Jeff Neese joins me, and his dry bar special is I Can't Talk to You Right Now, which I could relate to very much. First of all, I didn't know before I watched your special, I was like, what could that possibly be? And then you did the joke about having the older kid, and I can't talk to you right now.
Yeah, they always talk with my oldest kid. He texts. It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
When I text him, he texts me. I go, oh, he has his phone. I call him back. It says I can't talk to you right now.
Yeah, yeah. I got some. Mine is I have one son. He'll be 17 soon, and we'll be texting back and forth. And I'm like, it's too long. Let me call him. I call him. It goes to voicemail, and he texts me back. What do you want?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, same thing. Plus, there's always something gets lost in translation. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I'm always I got a new phone too, and for some reason my phone when I text I have more typos than anything, and then he'll reply with some sort of anagram or whatever. I don't know what it is. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean by all these
Yeah.
things. I don't know what KL7Q means or something.
Right.
I'm supposed to know what this means. I don't know. Just pick up the phone.
Right. I think the only time my son calls me is when I tell him not to. Like if I'm recording one of these episodes, or I'll text him and go, hey, I'll be on stage from 8 to 9 tonight, so don't call me. And then 8:48, a missed call from him. I'm like, bro, I told you. Like,
You know, I was doing a club in Detroit, outside Detroit, and I forgot I have an Apple Watch like everybody does. And I forgot to turn off the Bluetooth on the phone. I'm on stage. Somebody rings me, and goes off, and I'm like, yeah, I'm literally on stage, and
yeah.
hey everybody, say hi.
So you and I both, checked out your site. Very well done, your website. You and I have a pretty long history in this game,
We do.
and
Yeah, I've been around a while. Yeah, a little
yeah, me
while.
too, me too, me too. So why don't you tell folks, how you got started in comedy, maybe, what led
It's
you?
I'll try to give the Reader's Digest for it. Does anybody know Reader's
I
Digest?
don't
I just
think so.
realized I've
I
just
do.
dated myself. I don't even read Reader's Digest. I got used to my parents going, "I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of it." Now it's just like, we'll give you the Google. I don't know, whatever. I grew up near Detroit. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, and I was in college and I studied. I was studying medicine actually.
Oh wow.
Uh, Thought I might be a doctor. Then after about the first week, and I know, I'm a horrible at math. I go, I'll move into EMT. I'll become work, as a emergency medicine or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And after a while, and then I started doing theater is part of because I was moving into film. I was going to study film, but where I went didn't have a film school.
Program, right.
They had a minor. You can get a minor in it. I figure I'll take that degree, and then hopefully that'll help me get into a proper film school. Was the
Yeah.
idea. And while I was in there, I started doing theater, and the acting bug hit me, and the improv and all that. And I just remembered growing up on George Carlin albums and just going, I can't believe anybody can do that
Yeah.
as a living,
For a living, right.
And it was not like listening to comedy on the radio, on TV when I was a kid, because
Yeah.
they would have small audiences and there'd be a night, maybe a nightclub time. This was a rock star. This was
Yeah.
thousands of people screaming and laughing. I couldn't believe it. And then when I started doing the acting, maybe I can try this comedy thing. Went to my local comedy club. I was
In
too
Detroit.
scared. Well, I in Detroit, but in Toledo was my first
Oh,
stage,
gotcha, gotcha.
and then went to the clubs of Detroit. Well, I still go back now and then, and uh, I was too scared to go on stage by myself,
Yeah.
so I went on. I convinced I had a fraternity brother, convinced him to do it with me. I wrote us a two-person act. We did that for about 8 months. We were horrible,
Right.
and then he met a girl through it, so he was done. His mission was accomplished.
He took the girl over the
And
jokes.
suddenly I was a solo act, and the club owner said, if you want to if you want to do this, you got to do it. And one day one guy gave me $20.
Right.
Well, I'll just keep doing it till they stop paying me. And it's been, 30 years later. I guess if you only work for 20 bucks, you can work for 30 years.
Yeah, I think my first ever paying gig was MC for one night at my local comedy club here in town, and it was 15 bucks.
Yeah.
It was 15 bucks a night, Tuesday through Saturday, 15 bucks a show maybe. And
I
and
tell
it's
you, I
so
can't.
funny. My first time on stage was I grew up in Long Island, New York. I'm in Florida now. And I was 18 and I was afraid to go up alone. And I got a friend and we wrote some jokes as a two-man team and we stunk.
Now, how fast did you do it when you rehearsed it? And then how fast did you do it when you first went on stage?
If I remember correctly, we sped through it. You know, we were
Yeah,
so
yeah.
nervous.
Everybody's got about, oh, I got about 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you do it in about three.
Yeah, it
I'm
was a
trying to
little
do
bit
it.
it was a little bit long enough because there was I remember the numbers. There was 63 people there. We brought 53 of them. So it was because it was like our church youth group, you know, like
Right, right.
and so we did well and we actually took some we didn't know back then. We took some jokes we heard on TV, like, oh, that's a good joke. We should tell that one.
Yeah.
And we did a joke that some other comic had done on TV, and then other regulars there pulled us aside. We're like, hey, you can't, that's so
Right.
and so's joke. I'm like, I know it's
Because no
great.
one, there's no school,
Right, right.
really. I mean, now there's classes and stuff, but really, there's no way. No one tells you these things
Yeah.
until you learn by doing it wrong, and someone tells you you don't do it that way. That's
Did you have like a funny family member growing up that you can think of that maybe influenced your like
a
that got
family
a lot of
member.
laughs?
My dad was he spoke. He was a salesman. Started out as a salesman, and then he did some seminars and stuff. So he always it was a guy in front of people talking,
Yeah.
and he had a very dry sense of humor. In fact, I'll never forget. This is probably why they got it. My mom and my dad divorced. Uh, this is the type of humor he has, and it might not be funny to you and your listeners, but to me, it was the funniest thing. To this day, it's still one of the funniest things I've heard. My grandma passed away, and my mom went home to visit her before she passed, and then stay for the service and the funeral. And she came. My grandma lived in a very very teeny tiny town in Oklahoma, literally three stoplights. You know,
Right.
so she went down, and after the service, she flew home, and my dad and I picked her up at the airport. And we're driving home. This was before internet and all that stuff, where you could FaceTime. He said, "Well, how did it go?" And he said, "Well, it was very moving. The entire town came to the service because they all knew my grandma, and it was very moving." And he said, "Oh, so that's great." And then she said, at the end, because she was in a hospital, she was so confused uh, that when she had to drink through a straw, she would blow instead of suck. To where my dad, like that, says, "Well, why didn't you turn the straw the other way?"
Right.
Now, I'm in the back seat flipping around like a trout. This is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Of
Yeah,
course, not funny to my mom at all.
of course.
But my dad had this very dry, sarcastic
Yeah.
sense of humor. And I don't think I'm as sarcastic as he got, but it's stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I
He
remember
was
the first joke ever told to me was by my grandfather. We were driving in I think it was his white four-door Cutlass Supreme. And we were passing a cemetery and he
yeah,
he kind of like, puts his arm on the back seat and he's looking at me telling me this joke for far too long for somebody who's driving. You know what I mean? He's like, you know why they got a fence around that cemetery? I go,
yeah.
I have no idea. I think I was like 7 years old. And he goes, because people are dying to get in there.
Right.
And he just laughed and laughed, and I laughed, and he just like the smell of whiskey throughout the car was
It's
wonderful.
it's funny. I was just thinking, I can remember the first joke because we had joke books when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
when you had library day in elementary, and I
Oh yeah.
remember joke, but even all the way back then, I guess it was in there somewhere
Yeah.
that I wanted to do it, but you never thought that was a real thing you could do.
Right. Did you have those days in school where you got money or you can like pre-order, like go to the cafeteria and these tables set up with all the books? I forget what the Scholastic days or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah. We did. We had like book fair.
Yeah, yeah,
Book,
yeah.
yeah.
I get joke books there.
Now my kids have book fair and they come home with posters and
Yeah.
apps and stuff. Like, no, where's your books? A book fair.
Right.
I got this poster. It's not a book, you know. But I remember getting joke books and everything was so you want to be fill in the blank.
Right.
All those. So you want to be a comedian. So you want to be a magician. So you
Right.
want to be a doctor. Whatever it was.
And
It was
once you started doing it, Detroit, Toledo,
yeah.
probably the same thing happens. You kind of start hosting, and then the feature act may headline somewhere else and go, "Hey, do you want to feature for me?" Right, and then you start featuring elsewhere, and then you kind of go
Yeah.
up and up and up and up.
I was really lucky because when I started out, the club owner who's a friend to this day gave me a lot of. He was like a football coach. He was a
Huh.
really rough. He was like a football coach.
Yeah, yeah,
But he gave me a lot of information, and he forced me to do a lot of things that I don't think people are learning today, starting out. A
huh.
lot
Like
of
what?
good habits that I didn't realize I was getting good habits.
Right.
He said to me, "Now I'm going to tell you this is how it's going to go. You're going to be an opener, you're going to be an MC. And after a while, you're going to be killing, and you're going to go, you know what? I should be opening, but you're not going to be ready. I'm going to tell
Right.
you. And then eventually you'll be ready. And after a while, you're going to go, you know what? I'm better than that middle. I should be middling right now. I'm
Right.
going to tell you right now, you're going to suck. You're not going to be ready to middle." And on and on and on. And it goes.
Yeah,
And he was absolutely right. I
for
can't tell you how
sure.
many guys that go, oh, I should be headlining.
Yeah.
Nope. Yeah, I should be
No.
middling. Nope.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I kind of, knew my place. I did get a little cocky, like, you do when you're
Yep.
young. You kind of go, oh, yeah, I should. Of course you're killing. You're doing 10
Yeah.
minutes.
I
Yeah.
yeah, you're exactly right. So if you think if the middle act does 30 and you think you're ready because you have 30, you're not. You have 10 out of that
Yeah,
30.
there's a big difference between having the time and having the show,
The show, yeah.
you know. And not even that, just little things. Wait, what do you do when the checks come out? No one
Right.
tells you that because suddenly the show stops.
It's the worst.
It just stops.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know what happened. I was killing, and then
Yeah. Everybody gets a
I got
math
to start
problem.
all over again and bring them back. And
Because typically you're probably 5 to 10 minutes away from your closer,
yeah,
and you have them like right here on the roller coaster, and then they're like, "Here's a big math problem. Everybody figure that out amongst yourselves."
yeah, yeah. I was, and also, I think I was really lucky where I started out because when I went to like New York and as I started moving out of the Midwest and going
Yeah.
out, it was always easier for Midwest acts to succeed like in New York or LA than real New York or LA acts to
Oh
succeed
wow.
in the Midwest. I found because there were so many, especially guys from the city, from New York, that didn't leave the city because they assumed that everybody outside the city knew every reference they were talking about.
Yeah, good
And
point.
you're like in Detroit and you're talking, hey, remember like when the Empire State Building did this thing?
Right.
Remember when the guys went on strike and said, well, no.
Yeah, remember what happened to the bodega between 6th and 12th
Yeah,
Street?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
no.
you start doing subway material, and people are like, I drive a pickup,
Right. That's hilarious. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. And
Yeah,
yet some of these guys, they go on to, I guess they find that out eventually themselves, they,
yeah, yeah. They do. It's trial and error with everybody. I don't care
yeah.
where you're from. You just learn by failing.
Are you in Ohio? Are you in Toledo now? Or is that where you live?
No, no, oh no. I moved out of there in the '90s. I lived in LA for a while. Uh, lived in Las Vegas for 14 years.
I read that, yeah. How'd you like the Vegas
Lived in
scene?
Nashville for 5 years, and then my my wife and I we started having kids. She has a giant family here, so we came to Oklahoma, is where I am.
Wow, good for you. What's the
Because they have an airport.
Oklahoma? What's the that's
I'm
not
in,
home of one of the loony bins, is it?
yeah, yeah,
Is that
yeah.
the
There's
one you're
one in
talking about?
Oklahoma City. There's one in Tulsa. I think there's one in Wichita and one in Arkansas.
Is that the club you're talking about? That you still friendly with the guy?
Well, the guy died that booked it.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but honestly, I do mostly right now. Mostly, my bread and butter are ships and corporate
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, I wish I could dance around and say it any other way, but clubs just don't pay.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I wish, and it's tough because I see a lot of acts out there. I remember doing a club and they said, where do you want to set up your stuff? I said, what do you mean? Well, the stuff you sell after the show. Because I'm not selling anything.
Right.
Oh, I thought, well, everybody sells something. And that was a new thing. I'm going, so I see a lot of acts that I was working with when I do the clubs because I want to keep my foot in there. I love those audiences. And
Yeah.
it's a very different type of show,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, but a lot of guys are forcing a gimmick or a phrase or something they can put on a t-shirt
Yeah.
or something afterwards.
To
So
make gas money or something, lunch money for the next
yeah, I
day.
can't blame them. I mean, I remember when I did the road, like in the late 80s and early 90s, I was living on $20 a week for food. I'd go to, I could make a Subway sandwich last 2 or 3 days, I
Yeah,
used to
yeah, and
live
you would
on,
kind of count on the club hopefully giving you a free meal.
yeah, and if they didn't, I'd live on bar garnishes. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
always olives,
Oranges.
peanuts, yeah, lemon wedges, orange wedges. It's probably healthier than I'm eating now.
Right. Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah,
But I was trying to explain to somebody not in the business about the disparity in pay when you're a draw versus not a draw, right? So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
when you can command the door, then you make the big money,
It used to
But
be, and now it used to be TV spots and things like that. Now it's how many Instagram followers do you have?
yeah, that's one of the first questions I get on from managers and management companies is it's the first question, and I'm like, I'm not a
Do
big
they
fan.
check? Do they check? Do you think? Do you ever go 12 million? Yeah, 12
Yeah, I
million.
know, right? Um, I don't know, but I'm not a fan of social media, and I've been working hard to get better at it because I understand that's the game now. But
It's so exhausting because I'm not that interesting. You know, there are days I have to post something. I
yeah,
look at my feet. I'm going to clip my toenails today.
right, right,
It's like,
yeah.
and,
I,
and
I
also,
struggle with it.
what during the election season and stuff, it just got ugly. I started pulling away from it because
Yeah,
it
it could be
got to the
very
point if you
draining.
didn't agree with somebody's politics on any level, it was, oh, you're evil.
Yeah, I try to I try to post and then exit because if I
Yeah.
start scrolling, I'm gonna get mad and upset, and it's like it's McDonald's for the brain. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
it's so easy.
Yeah,
It's so easy. I remember just canceling, like just I'm getting off, just deleting the apps because
yeah,
I didn't realize I just spent a good part of my day
scrolling.
arguing with someone I don't know.
Right. Sometimes I do it for fun. Like even if I take a point of view that I don't agree with, just to get
Oh,
under someone's skin.
it's so easy to
It is.
just send somebody over the edge.
Yeah,
Oh, so easy. You
yeah,
know, you get the key is if you can do in one post, if you can offend like every spectrum
yeah,
with
yeah.
one, oh, it was scary when Biden fell because we almost had a female
Right, right.
president. You could just in one post, you could just find a way to upset everybody. That would, it's too easy to poke the bear and just, when
Right,
people take things so seriously. It's
right.
like, yeah.
So you get the opportunity to do a dry bar special, right?
Yeah,
For
that was really, I gotta tell you, that was really interesting because I did it right at the beginning of the pandemic,
oh, okay.
pretty much. I mean, we filmed it 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was weird. It was weird and wonderful because when you go there, they treat you so nice. They really treat you well. They're very kind. They're very complimentary, and that's fun. You fly in and you do the show, and it's a blast. But it was so weird because what you couldn't see in the special, uh, they they had to socially distance the audience. So we had maybe half an audience,
Okay.
but they would strategically put them around. So if you shot low, it just looked like a line of heads,
Gotcha.
people. But the laughter, I don't care what they do, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of people there
Right, right.
because there wasn't a lot of people there. And it was so it's a different vibe being on stage and you're like looking at it looks like Swiss cheese. There's a table, then a big hole in the
Right.
table.
Because you want that continuity, you want that togetherness of a pack of people
Well,
creating
also,
sound.
as a comedian,
Yeah.
it's just a different show with a packed house.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a different show. I don't care, what spot you're doing. It's a different show. And but we did it. It was a blast. And then um, what was really funny is I actually did some stuff that I never did before, but the first time I did it was on that special.
Oh wow, that's a risk.
It was stupid,
Right.
but it was just stupid. But it was funny because no club was open during that time to try things out, right?
Okay, right. Yeah.
So I was in my office and I would rehearse it out loud for about 30 minutes a day. And I realized this is how I started. This is
Yeah.
exactly how I did it when I did it in 87 by myself for the
Yep.
first time. It was really weird and kind of just bittersweet and fun and weird to just kind of I'm doing stand up the way I was taught to do it from day one.
Yeah,
And I
you had it
know
in
how
the
it's going to
very,
go.
very beginning. You're rehearsing your every single word. Don't forget it. Don't forget this, and over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the bits I do in there, I do totally different now because, after you do it for a while,
Yeah, they evolve.
you cut the fat out. It's always a little fat when you first do it. There's always
Yeah.
too many words and ideas but yeah, it was a blast. I really had a good time. And the other acts I worked with were fun because there was two other acts that shot their special
Oh,
that night.
good, good. Yeah. And you
Yeah.
can kind of tell whenever I watch a special before one of these podcasts, I could tell how, whether it was a pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, or, because the claps, it's a two-story, if it's filming in the same place, it's a two-story facility, right?
Yeah, we had nobody upstairs.
Yeah. And so it was a
We
high
had
ceiling, and
about
when
a
people
quarter,
clap,
maybe half of the people on the bottom, maybe,
yeah, yeah.
maybe.
And you can kind of tell when the people clap, the sound goes up, it travels more, and you can kind of tell. I'm like, oh, I bet you this was filmed during the pandemic or close to it.
It's funny when I do the cruise ships. I do a lot of the cruise ships, and sometimes they ask us to do the very first night, like a spot in what they call the welcome aboard show. You
Oh
do
yeah,
20 minutes
okay,
or something in the first night. Just sort of this is sort of what you might see during the week. And sometimes they'll film it and put it on the TV in the cabins. The
okay,
cruise people, they watch this show on a loop. And I always beg them, please don't do it because they always take the audio from the mic, but there's no audience audio.
right,
So it's always like joke, silence, joke.
right.
There's 2,000 people in the audience.
Yeah.
Joke, silence.
How do you like the ship? Well, we'll come back to your driver special. How do you like the ships?
I love them. I mean, it's been my bread and butter since the '90s. I did one or two. I had a
Yeah,
manager at the time. He called me up and said, "You want to do a ship?" I'm like, "Okay."
yeah,
Never did a ship before. First ship I ever did, it held about 600 people. It was the biggest thing I've ever seen in my life.
right.
I just came off a ship that holds 6,500 people.
Wow.
You
And do
know,
you work for the same? You don't have to say the name, but do you work for different cruise
I
lines or
got
one?
about 7 different lines that I keep my toe
Great.
in. So, if everybody gives me 3 or 4 weeks a year, I don't annoy them by overstaying my welcome, and I'm
Yeah.
still new to their audiences. And
Right. And that fills your calendar.
yeah,
If you have that many doing a month at a time, or
well,
whatever,
I
three,
do
four
about a
weeks.
week or 2 weeks at a time, and then also you get to know the people out there, your fellow acts, and you become friends with them. My best friend I've knew since the first ship I ever did.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's fantastic. And it's funny. I think it's funny you're in Oklahoma, but you do the open seas, the
well,
ships.
I mean, they just
They fly anywhere.
fly me to wherever I'm.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. Perfect.
That's kind of how it is. People are doing shows on Zoom now.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I refuse it. Did you do any
I
Zoom?
had to. Yeah. Well, I didn't have to, but I chose to do it. And
I just couldn't.
I
I got
finally got
offered a
it to
bunch and I
be,
said I couldn't do it.
yeah. I finally got it to be sort of comfortable for me. What I did was I just had everyone on the call mute themselves except for 10 people, the 10 coordinators or leaders, so that I had timing. So I knew if I could make them laugh, I can get my
Right,
timing and
right.
pacing down. Because you can't open the call to 700 people. It would, they can hear me,
It's
but I don't want to hear
I just
700
couldn't
people.
figure. It's funny. Magicians were doing shows, and they were killing. I know guys that were killing it, but I'm like, is there any other? Is there? You don't even have to be a good magician. Hey, where to go? I don't know. This is
Right.
all they see. I can do that, but they were some of these. It's amazing what people were doing during the pandemic just to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
But we were the
Um,
first. You know what? Entertainment. We were the first to close and the last to open.
right.
And we all have kids to feed and all that. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. It's so bizarre to think back to that time. And I was trying to explain to my son how unique it was in history.
It feels like it ended last week, but your kids are like, oh, that was like and kids
What
say,
happened?
yeah, when was this? Remember you wore a mask for school for 2 years? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right. It became normal. So let me tell you my favorite joke of yours from your special. I like the whole thing. First of all, I think the set design and the coloring was fantastic. Visually,
Really nice, wasn't it?
it's like a
I had
purple.
nothing to do with that, by the way.
Right,
I
right.
showed up and they go, "There's your set." I'm like,
I thought
okay.
you were going to make a joke about all the speakers behind you. It was like 100 speakers on
And so I was so in my head wanting to,
Yeah.
remember the stuff I was
Yeah.
doing. I almost did. It's funny. There's a lot of stuff they cut out
Yeah.
from the special
To
for
make
what
it the right time, right? The time they
I suppose, and maybe one was, I tend to be a little bit politically incorrect, and there's a whole bit on that, about a 7-minute bit that just is not in there.
right.
Probably not appropriate for them, but
Right.
they can go to my website and see it.
Yeah. I think the guy that I filmed with still hasn't had his published. I don't know for what reason, but I mean, I filmed mine in 2019. So
And it's out, right?
no, mine's out, but his isn't, the guy that I filmed with.
2019.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was something similar. Like, I don't remember
Yeah,
his
because
show.
they said it would be 9 months
Yeah.
to a year, and mine was 2 years.
Yeah.
Um, and you don't want to bug them.
Right. I think I lucked out. Like, first of all, bugging people is like, I have the hardest time with that. Sometimes what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
There's a fine line. I
I
tell friends,
know.
there's a fine line between the squeaky wheel and the pain in the butt.
Yeah. I filmed mine in January of 19. It was released in April, right? A month. So and then yeah, it was released in April, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not here to talk about mine. Here's my favorite joke of yours, and I wish I had it. Um, you talk about skydiving and you're not really skydiving, you have somebody on your back. You
Right.
can't say that you're skydiving or a skydiver if
Yeah.
you're just strapped to someone
Yeah.
else. And you then give a couple of
He's,
examples. So you can't be, a doctor and be like, here's your illness. And they go, well, you want a second opinion, and turn around to somebody strapped to your back.
that was the first time I did that bit on that
Wow.
special. That was the very first time I did that bit. And I do it differently now. I think I do it better now. It's a little, but that's
Yeah.
funny that you mentioned that. Well, that's good. That's
Just the concept. I was like, man, I wish I thought of that, because you
you can't
really,
be yeah. That's the thing is you can't strap yourself to another person and you're now that.
right. You're not a
Plus he
skydiver
was
now.
wearing you.
Right.
Like, he's wearing you. You're not a sky. He's the skydiver.
Right. You're along for the ride.
He's wearing you. You're not
Right.
you can't be a tandem lawyer.
Right.
Objection on what grounds? Tell him, Steve. Tell him, you can't do that.
This is a joke I wrote, but I never did on stage. You're more than welcome to have it. It's you start your show with, I think, up front somewhere, where, don't you hate it when people say you look tired, even though
Yes.
you
Yeah.
just. So what I wrote initially was, and I've never done this, I'm not going to do it, but if someone says you look tired, and I'm like, I just took like a 10-hour nap,
Yeah.
how do you respond to that? You look stupid. You know what? I can take a nap. You can't fix dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
That's good. Yeah, like
But
Hey,
it's
I can have a
true.
cup of
I get that
coffee.
a lot. I get that.
I
You
can
look
have a cup
tired.
of coffee. You can drink all the coffee in the world. You're still going to be an idiot.
Yeah, it's still stupid. Now move out of my way. I gotta go take a nap.
Now, now you're just an idiot that bounces off the walls.
And you mentioned you have three sons, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you had I think in the special you mentioned you had when you had you at what age you had your third son.
50. Yeah,
Yeah,
old dad. I'm an old dad.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised to hear that. That's always well.
Well, did you see Al Pacino?
I
Is
thought it
going to
was
be
I was gonna say De Niro. Maybe it is
De
Pacino.
Niro and Al Pacino. Both. They're making their own grandkids. Can you imagine?
They're just skipping. Like here, we just had my first
Don't
grandchild.
jump on daddy. You're going to break my hip.
Right. Go get daddy a new set of tennis balls. I
De
gotta.
Niro's kids' first words are going to be, I hate Trump. It's going to be something like that. It's going to be.
Yeah. I'll be 50 this year and I couldn't imagine having a kid, man. God bless you.
Well, I think, the one thing is when you get older, you realize how much upper body strength you need to have a kid. And you don't even think about that. But it's just like, daddy, he's always like, throw me, daddy. Oh,
Right.
oh, daddy's taking a nap, son.
Right. Oh, daddy's got the back issue again. They're just
Well,
making excuses.
God, what do they say? God's timing is perfect.
Right.
So it just happened. I hate when people go, just we're waiting. We're just gonna wait till we're ready.
You're never
We're
gonna be
never
ready.
ready.
No.
Nobody ever goes, okay, let's go. No, you're never ready.
Right.
No, you're never really ready. You might be more prepared. Might have an extra few bucks in the bank, whatever.
Right.
You might be, you're never ready.
And I think having a kid, like for me, one of the best days of having a child was when they could finally tell you what they want, speak verbally.
Right.
They get out of that stage of just crying. You don't know what the heck they want. When they finally go, hungry, I'm like, I can do that. I know what to do. I know.
And you're like, son, you're 27. You can make your own sandwich. Hungry,
hungry, Papa. Jeez, when are you moving out?
The weird thing is, I don't feel old, but I'm doing old things now. Like I'm watching Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
I'm like, what the hell happened? I'm flipping around and I go, oh, no. Okay, there's two things about Wheel of Fortune. One, how much I love the show,
right,
which is amazing to me. And secondly, how horrible a speller I really am.
Right.
You watch this stuff and I go, oh, I got it. Okay, it's innie and outer belly button. They're like, no, it's Empire State Building. You're even adding words, you stupid, Right. I watch senior sports.
Yeah.
Because that's the nice thing though. There's old people sports now. There's you got senior golf, senior tennis.
Yeah.
There's no senior rodeo. That's what I want to see. Don't you want to see like a 90-year-old on a going out in a blaze of glory?
I think only if the animals were as old as the person riding them.
And riding Glue Bucket.
Right. It's just trotting along with this 90-year-old on
it. That'd be fun.
My son did an impression of me that made me feel old. He just pretended he had a coffee mug in his hand, staring out the back sliding glass doors at the yard. Just I go, what are you doing? He goes, this is what you do all the time, just admiring your yard work. I was like, do I do that? He's like, yeah, you do it.
Well, yes. It's funny because you say to yourself, I'm not going to be like my dad. And you end up exactly like your dad. Yeah. Exactly.
Absolutely.
But it's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Keeps them around.
Yeah, I'll start telling maybe I'll start telling the corny jokes and I'm trying to embarrass him. But as I get older, I don't know. He calls me Old Man Johnson.
You're going to be exactly like you're going to be exactly like your dad. You're going to be exactly like your dad. Don't even fight it. Don't even fight it.
As a matter of fact, I'm looking forward to telling my grandchildren the first joke that I ever told when I drive past the cemetery with them. The same one my grandfather told me.
I remember the first joke I ever read as a kid out of one of those joke books, and that made me like laugh just reading it. And it was the Lone Ranger and Tonto are surrounded by the entire, Sioux tribe.
Yeah.
And Lone Ranger looks to Tonto and says, "It looks like we're in quite a pickle." And Tonto says, "What do you mean we, paleface?" For some reason, that was the funniest joke I've ever read.
Right, right.
It just made me, and here I am 30 years later, trying to make a better joke than that.
Yeah. My grandfather used to, whenever we used we, he would always say, "You got a mouse in your pocket?"
Nah,
So stupid. All right, look, so your site is jeffneesecomedy.com. Your social media
it's
is also
just jeffneese.com,
jeffneese.com.
nease.com.
And
There's tons of videos. There's tons of stuff on there that is uh, family clean and stuff that is adult.
yeah, I saw that. It's a very well put together site. I don't know if you did it or not. It was a fantastic job. It's got a
Thanks.
corporate section, a family friendly section, an adult section, a joke section.
Well, I try to put stuff on there that if you're easily offended by themes or language or whatever, that you have a chance to click off of it.
Yeah.
And it gives you a warning first. And the family stuff is family because I work on cruise ships and they want us to do a family show, but they also ask us often to do an adult show.
Yeah.
What they want.
What if you don't do that? Do you have to just throw in some curse words or something?
You could. I tell you what, it's so much easier to spice up a clean act than it is to clean up a dirty act.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of guys that try to do that, and that happens in the corporate event as well, too. I'm amazed at people that just don't get it. The one tip I was always know where you are. That was the one tip I was always told, is know who you are, know where you are, know the audience, because no one bought a ticket to see me on a cruise ship.
Right.
And also a lot of times corporate events, they don't even know who you are half the time, unless
they don't even know comedy's happening. It's just another guy up there with a microphone.
I remember working in Vegas. We used to do these shows in Vegas where they would bring in, you would be the free show for this busload of people, right? They come into the hotel, gamble a while, we'll give you a free buffet and a show, and then go back and gamble, we'll put you in the bus and send you home.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of hotels that would do that. And if you're working the club, do you want to do this show? We'd do it. They don't even know a show's going on.
Yeah.
They're just like that.
They just lost $500 and ate.
I remember doing a club called Wise Guys in Syracuse, and they said, "Do you want to do a high school?" Me and the other act.
No.
It was a family thing, and it was up the road, and it was on an off night. And we'll throw you a couple of $100, do this family show. I said, "Yeah, sure. We're here." Well, the other act, he didn't understand what family meant.
Right.
And it was hilarious because we're in the back and the principal of the high school kept coming back to the green room and, "Okay, you got to be clean. There's kids out there and parents. You got to be clean." And we're like, "Yeah, okay." You got to, he kept coming back 3 or 4 times. And we're like, "Yeah, we got it." Of course, the guy didn't get it. He went up there and started doing his nightclub act. Freaked everybody out.
Right.
And we had to do another show, 2 seatings. The principal comes back and starts screaming. And if you've been screamed by a principal, it's like you were back in school screamed by the principal.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my God. The best thing, though, is we're all trying to rewrite this other guy's act in between shows. We're rewriting this guy, and we're all down there with our notes. Change that and say this. And the principal came back and said, "I'll make sure you guys never work high schools again."
Oh, God.
And right then, we just started laughing, going, "Okay, well."
Yeah. We're never going to work high schools again anyway, sir.
But you work all over. You do all sorts of things, right?
Yeah. I could do probably a whole episode on different venues. We both probably could on different kinds of.
Oh, I remember doing these one-nighters. When you start out, you do one night. You'd be doing comedy night.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember this one, I won't mention the name of the booker because he's kind of famous for not having great gigs in the Midwest. And he says, "You're working the Rendezvous Lounge." And it was called the Rendezvous Lounge. And they gave me the address, and I get there, and it's not called the Rendezvous Lounge. It was a biker bar in the basement of this other bar. It was a pool hall, and it was called the Rendezvous by the locals because
Right.
that's where bikers would cheat on their wives. They would bring their girlfriends. And what they would do, so the guy was an Indian, the guy that ran this place. And remember those like fake bricks that you could staple onto a
Oh
wall?
yeah, yeah,
He had a square about this big with a
yeah.
hook on it, and he would hang it on a corner of the bar, and he had a yellow bug light above it, and he screwed it in. And hey, it's a comedy club.
Right.
And he said, now you got to go up there and tell all the bikers to stop playing pool and go do an hour
That's what they want.
by yourself.
Right.
Start the show. You don't get a nickel.
Right.
You have to do the whole hour
Yeah.
and tell these bikers, hey, stop, shut up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna talk for an hour while you guys were trying to cheat on your wife.
Right.
Yeah, that was the kind of ventures. So I don't complain about anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I
The
remember
venues.
doing venues in South Georgia where they would like at 8 o'clock they would just shut off all the TVs and pool tables would shut down while people were watching TV and playing pool, and they would just get on the mic. All right, everybody's comedy time, and they're all like, "Ah, man."
Isn't that amazing? That happened to me outside Detroit in the 90s. The Detroit Pistons were playing. Um, this is outside Detroit. Detroit Pistons were playing in a playoff, tied up,
Ugh,
6 minutes left. Guy turns off the TV.
no way.
Well, okay, it's comedy time. And what the? I walk up
Yeah.
and I go, folks, I hope you don't mind. I want to see the end of the game. Can we watch the end of the game and then I'll come back and sling some jokes? Do you mind? Yeah. And suddenly they love me. And I went to the club guy. I go, you almost got me killed up there. What the hell are you
Yeah.
doing up
Yeah.
there?
Cool. Well, look, Can't Talk to You Right Now is a great special. Highly recommend it. Dry Bar Comedy app. You'll see clips on social media and YouTube. Now, I know that some of the specials, if not all of them, have been pushed to Amazon Prime and Apple TV. So I wonder if yours is
You
on
know,
there too.
I don't know if it's on there yet because it was just released
Okay.
in April. So I'll check.
But
If you use the code Jeff Neese, my name,
together, no space.
yeah, I think you get a free month of Dry Bar Plus.
Yep.
And there's great shows on there. There's lots of you don't even have to see mine. You watch. There's lots of great people on.
You should watch it. Watch my favorite joke about the parachuter, and I'm gonna look for clips in the future if there's ever any online of you how you do it now. I'd be very curious to see how it evolved.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I'll find out. I'm going off on a ship next week, and I'll see if I can get a clip for you.
Well, look, hang out here for a few minutes after we're done recording here, and I appreciate you being on, man. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Bear with me one moment here.